Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Looking today at Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 9, you may recall in verse 7 that the Lord asked the question, should I forgive a nation such as this, a people that has done these things, committed spiritual idolatry, worshiping idols, and leading to physical adultery as well. So spiritual adultery and physical adultery. And the Lord is going to bring this short section to a conclusion after some very graphic imagery in verse 8. He's going to bring it to a conclusion here in verse 9 with a question. Let's go ahead and read the Hebrew as we get started. Ha'al ele lo efkod ne'om Adonai ve'im bogoy asher kazeh lo titnakem nafshi. So you can see I ended with a question because actually we start with a question over here with this hey interrogative, like a upside down question mark in Spanish. So this is, we're used to seeing it in this form here with a composite schwa, but because the guttural, the I in here, it takes a sympathetic pathak instead of full pathak. So there's a question upon, let's translate literally here. Upon these, this is our near demonstrative plural here. Upon these, now what's this referring to? Well, we'll talk about some possibilities in a little bit. Will I not do something? Well, here's our negation, and here's our verb here with an olive performative. So we know it's going to be an imperfect, and first common singular, and this is a cal from the verb pakad. Now, pakad is one of these multi-purpose verbs. In its basic form, we often translate it as a visit. But visit for what purpose? Very frequently visiting, the Lord will visit his people to bring correction against them. And so it's often used in a negative sense, either transitively to punish the people with a direct object, or sometimes to punish upon them, which might be the sense of this preposition al here, upon these, because of these things. It might be because of these things, or upon these people. There's a couple different ways of understanding that. We'll come back to that in the translations. An oracle or declaration of Yahweh declares the Lord. Now literally we have and if, but when we have a sentence that begins with a hey interrogative, and we have a second part of that question, the second part frequently begins with im, and we don't translate it as if, but we translate it as continuing the question. So it's basically the equivalent of a second hey interrogative, and that's how we'll translate it. So there's going to be another question here. Bagoy, we probably recognize goy, nation, usually referring to the non-Israelite nations, but here the Lord is using it for his own people, against a people who, and we have to supply a verb are, or people who is, if you want to take it collectively, like this. So here's our preposition like or as, and ze, just our near demonstrative again, masculine singular here, like this. So like this people, against them, against the people like this, what might God do? He said, we're here, negation again. And tit nakem, well, obviously we have some sort of a long prefix here, and a preformative actually, and this is going to be with the tau at the beginning. It could be either a 3fs or a 2ms because it's the same form here. Actually, the subject of it is going to be nafshi, which is my soul, nefesh, and with first common singular. First common singular suffix on it at the very end here. So my soul, which is another way of saying I myself am I in my inmost being. Will I not, with our negation, now what is this verb? Well, since my soul is the subject of this verb, this nefesh is a feminine noun, even though it's referring to God here in the sense of it, but it's a feminine. So this is going to be a 3, it's going to be an imperfect, obviously, IMPF, 3 FS, because nafshi is the subject, and this is going to be a hithpael. So it's a hithpael, and from the verb nakam, which means to take vengeance. And in the hithpael stem in particular, it means very strongly to avenge oneself. So So the question becomes, will my soul not avenge itself against a nation which is like this? So you can see what the Lord is saying. I am certainly going to bring strong punishment against my people. So in its analysis, it's pretty straightforward. Couple questions about what to do up here, and we'll see that now when we move to some of the translations. So let's go ahead and take a look at, actually real quickly, at 4 different translations. King James, the old King James, takes us about pretty basic and pretty literal. Shall I not visit for these, and then things, which is actually in italics in the old King James editions, many of them. So this is pretty literal. Will I not visit upon these things, for or because of these things, saith the Lord, and shall not my soul be avenged? So that's this part over here, my soul be avenged on or against a nation like this one, which is like this. So that's pretty straightforward. The ESV is going to be a little more precise in its definition here. Shall I not punish them for these things? Now, for these things seems to be this expression right here. So the them, I would say that the ESV translators have probably implied it from this verb here. I don't think they're translating the ele as the them. I think they're translating the ele as for these things. In other words, the idolatry is mentioned in the previous verses. Declares the Lord, and shall I not avenge myself, which is a good way of translating my soul, on a nation such as this. New American Standard, shall I not punish these people? Now you see they've taken the al as sort of a direct object marker going with the verb punish, and they've taken these people as the direct object of the verb to punish. They did put a note in that goes along the direction of the ESV. It could also be like this, but they've chosen in the basic New American Standard to put it upon these people. So that's another way of doing it, declares the Lord. And on a nation such as this shall I not avenge myself. And then lastly, the New Jerusalem Bible, shall I fail to punish this? So they've taken upon these is this, everything that they've done probably in the previous couple verses. All the spiritual idolatry and the physical adultery as well, the disobedience of God's people. Shall I fail to punish this, not because of these things, but punishing those things themselves? All of these ideas are coming down to basically the same idea, or on such a nation to exact vengeance. They don't bring out the fact that it's I myself or my soul which is exacting vengeance, but that is what's there. So in any case, that we see how much the actions of the people have brought upon this great judgment and this visceral reaction from God himself, and how he is going to intervene and deal with his people. And he's totally justified in what he's doing, and that's what he's bringing out in this verse. A sad commentary on the people, and yet all of us have to realize our own guilt and God's justification before we can understand his great grace, which will be showing up in some of the following verses. So check back with us soon for our next weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.